I remember one time we were doing experiments late at night and the janitor came in and you started striking a conversation with him about what we were doing.
Yes.
And then you were explaining that it's like throwing a ball against the wall and having it tunnel through. So I think today we should actually do the experiment and see if it can actually happen.
Okay, John, let's
go
do it.
Okay.
Yes. Everyone knows that when you throw a ball at a wall, it bounces back. So in the 1980s, what we wanted to see if it was possible that a macroscopic object, like a ball, would it behave like a microscopic particle, like an electron, whether it would tunnel, which means essentially going through a wall.
Årets Nobelpristagare i fysik lyckades med det till synes omöjliga. Ett experiment som la grunden för kvantdatorer. Datorer tusentals gånger snabbare än dagens superdatorer. Hoppet är bättre mediciner och miljövänliga material. Och de har en plan för hur kvantdatorerna ska bli så bra under deras livstid. Här på Googles kvantdatorlabb i Santa Barbara i Kalifornien brukar inte media släppas in. Fast när forskningschefen fått Nobelpris så görs ett undantag. Vi ska komma tillbaka hit senare. Men först ska vi träffa den tredje Nobelpristagaren som öppnade dörren till kvantdatorvärlden.
Oh my God! Oh my God! He's like, what? And he just like sort of woke up like, you know, what's happening? Is the house on fire? And I'm like, my dad won the Nobel Prize!
Hemma i Kalifornien hos 83-åriga brittiska Nobelpristagaren John Clark är dottern Elizabeth på besök. Och dörrhandtaget har just trillat av ytterdörren.
I feel like I did this to you maybe 10 years ago when you got mad at me. Yeah.
No, okay.
You're welcome. Should we get some tea?
There's scissors. Yeah.
I can open it.
Oh, okay.
John Clark var professor i fysik vid universitetet i Berkeley i Kalifornien på 1980-talet och ledde det Nobelprisbelönade experimentet. Men han är född i Storbritannien, i Cambridge, 1942.
So this is a model Spitfire, which is I think the best fighter aircraft of World War II when I was in high school. One of my big hobbies then was model aeroplanes. I used to make model aeroplanes. And I think I was always curious to see, well, would it actually fly? I think I had a great sense of how the things work.
John Clark var vetgirig även som ung och gillade att bygga med den senaste tekniken. Till exempel en analog dator med elektronrör som han fick visa upp för prinsessan Alexandra på besök i gymnasieskolan.
Royal Highness showed up at the school and she was stunningly beautiful and about, I don't know, 2 or 3 years older than me. And I had to explain about my analog computer. And she said, I'd just like to say that I didn't understand a single word that you said. The whole place just collapsed in laughter.
John Clark fortsatte utforska avancerad elektronik. Han doktorerade i Cambridge med att bygga världens dittills känsligaste voltmätare. Sen blev han erbjuden en professorstjänst i USA på Berkeley. Där, i mitten av 80-talet, sker den avgörande händelsen för att kunna bygga en kvantdator. Och det börjar med att han anställer 2 unga forskarkollegor.
I had Michel Devereux and John Martinez in my group, and they're utterly brilliant people.
So it's kind of the French and American and British
Yes,
kind of personalities
Yes,
that
yes.
blended together in a great way.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Så vad är det då de Nobelpris belönas för?
Let's see, it's in this one. The first thing I want to show you is the photograph of the actual experiment.
In our experiment, it meant we were going to look very carefully at currents and voltages in a circuit and see if they would obey quantum mechanics.
Att enskilda atomer styrs av mystisk kvantmekanik så att elektroner kan ta sig genom barriärer, det visste man. Men årets Nobelpristagare ville testa om atomsystem så stora att man kan se dem med blotta ögat också kunde bete sig på samma märkliga vis. Så de byggde en apparat där elektrisk ström gick i en elsladd men där ett speciellt kvantmekaniskt strömbrytarchip stoppade elen.
So the chip is down here, and it's about a centimeter across.
De frös sen ner sladden till strax över absoluta nollpunkten så att den blev så kallat supraledande. Då kan elektronerna röra sig utan motstånd.
So our experiments run at more than 100 times lower than the coldest place in the universe.
Då började stora mängder elektroner att tunnla genom chippet där strömmen var bruten, som om de var en enda stor partikel. Och en voltmätare gav utslag. Det var lika märkligt som om bollar kunde tränga genom en tjock mur.
It was really original because at that moment the only quantum physics experiments were on particles.
Pristagarna fick ytterligare ett bevis för att experimentet funkade kvantmekaniskt när de skickade mikrovågor mot chippet. Det påverkade hur lång tid det tog innan tunnlingen satte igång, precis som kvantfysikens teorier säger.
When we finally tried it, by golly, it eventually worked, and we were stunned.
I don't remember like breaking the opening champagne
But
bottle.
we were certainly, super happy to publish these papers. I think it had remained for me for many years a very important source of pride.
My parents, they were always asking, did you ask a question today? And what question did you ask? Is if you want to be a scientist, you always are asking questions and thinking in that way. So I think that kind of trained us at an early age to do that. Now, I don't know where they got that from or why they did that, but I think that really worked.
John Martinis är född i San Pedro i Kalifornien, men föräldrarna har sina rötter i Kroatien. Där, under andra världskriget, var hans pappa barnsoldat.
What actually happened with my father is he was hungry, so there was a military base, and he would get fed, and eventually they gave him a uniform, and then eventually he was marching off to war somewhere, with the military when he was basically a young teenager.
Senare i tonåren flyttade pappan till Kalifornien dit Martinis farfar redan emigrerat och jobbade som fiskare.
Things are always breaking on the boat, and you have to fix things and build things. And yeah, I learned that skill, and it's something I did. I built electronics when I was in high school. That background was really helpful for me in physics as an experimentalist because you're always building something new that someone has never done before. Welcome to my garage. This is where I, after a long day of thinking and whatever, I'll try to come out here and do a little project every day. This is for my formal attire for the Nobel Prize, but I'll use it as a clean surface.
Utvecklingen av kvantdatorer från hundratals kvantbitar idag till miljoner går för långsamt, tycker John Martinis.
If you extrapolate the current trend and you say, well, when will we get to 1 million? I will certainly be dead.
Därför har han startat ett företag vid sidan om sin forskning. Målet är att tillverka kvantchip på samma fabriker som gör dagens vanliga datorchip. På en sån här silvrig kiselskiva kan man då trycka in tusentals kvantchip.
I guess I'm giving away some of my industrial secrets, but that's okay. Oh, this one has to be done better.
At the Atomic Energy Commission near Paris, they had some animals around the lab to reassure people that they were not doing dangerous things. Quantum computers are not dangerous.
Michel Devoré är född i Paris 1953. Mamman var förskollärare och pappan som syns i mitten av bilden var läkare och forskare i biologi. Han tog med familjen till USA, till Yale, på forskningsuppdrag när Michel var 13.
He had a very large influence on me. He was very passionate about physics and, you know, he transmitted some of this passion to me.
Experimentet på 80-talet bevisade att det går att använda kvanteffekter i elektronik. Ett första frö till en kvantdator. Sedan dess har många företag och forskare jobbat vidare med olika koncept och där det nu finns kvantdatorer i labben, som här på Google.
What you see here is a cryostat that houses all the wiring for the quantum computer, which is actually sitting inside this copper cylinder here.
Kvantdatorer är extremt dyra och känsliga och är inte tänkta att skriva text och visa kattvideor. Istället ska de lösa extremt komplexa problem som dagens superdatorer skulle behöva miljontals år för att klara. Men först krävs en hel del utveckling.
Well, the challenge actually, one of the challenges, you see it here, you see there are really a lot of wires.
Problemet med tusentals sladdar är att de är dyra, svåra att ha koll på och kyla och stör extremt känsliga kvantprocesser.
There are not any laws of physics apparently that prevents this technical evolution.
Så vad är det för speciellt med kvantdatorer? Jo, vanliga datorer jobbar med bitar, där en transistor antingen släpper fram ström eller inte, 1 eller 0. En kvantbit däremot kan vara två värden samtidigt mellan 1 och 0 och får därför enormt mycket större kapacitet vid beräkningar. Särskilt när man sammankopplar många kvantbitar.
Google has a series of milestones where basically you go from 100 qubits all the way to 1 million.
Just nu pågår en kapplöpning. Till exempel IBM, Microsoft och kinesiska bolag försöker bli först med att bygga en riktigt stor kvantdator som fungerar utanför labben. Och man har valt olika metoder att bygga dem.
A great race, in my opinion, is a race between different platforms, like the race that exists between quantum superconducting circuits and neutral atoms, for instance, or trapped ions.
Michel Devoré och John Martinis har varit vänner ända sedan de träffade varandra första gången i en hiss på Berkeley 1982.
Hello, John.
De brukar promenera på helgerna och utbyta idéer, men de delar också ett annat intresse.
Welcome to movie night.
Great. I love to discuss movies with friends, and I have had the immense pleasure to teach a course, Cinema and Physics, with a colleague.
Ikväll blir det Hollywoodfilmen Oppenheimer från 2023 om fysikerna som byggde världens första atombomb.
How? Bombarded with neutrons.
It's a nuclear fission. They did it. They split the atom.
It's not possible.
You know, I was thinking when we found out about high temperature superconductivity during the time I was there, it kind of seemed similarly, not quite as amazing as this, but we could understand how amazing that discovery was.
And how exciting this was.
We had a moment where it looked like the chain reaction from an atomic device might never stop, setting fire to the atmosphere.
I love this scene. This is one of the best moments of the film from my point of view.
Are we saying there's a chance that when we push that button, we destroy the world? Nothing in our research over 3 years supports that conclusion, except it's the most remote possibility. How remote?
We see that indeed theory is good, but only experiments can decide. And we see the complete irresponsibility of physicists when it comes to very, very serious world matters. I feel that if both John and I would have built a bomb, that's exactly what we would have.
Well, what's interesting is they calculated this effect.
Yes.
And they thought about all the possibilities. But we have to have the understanding that we never understand things completely until you do an experiment.
These people were building the bomb to make sure that they would be first to have it and not Hitler. I think from a moral perspective, I don't think you could really question their motives, but yeah, I'm happy. I don't have to do the kind of physics that have this kind of moral dilemma.
But with building a quantum computer, you can break present encryption, and people are worried about that. But of course, when you develop any technology, you don't exactly know what it's going to be used for. I would say from what we're doing, it looks, mostly or all positive. But of course, with technology, you never know how it's going to get used.
Quantum physics is not a step forward. It is a new way to understand reality.
I probably haven't played it for some months.
John Clark har pensionerat sig från labbet på Berkeley. Hemma lyssnar han på musik. Redan för 50 år sedan upptäckte han varför det kan vara så njutbart, som i låten Take 5 här. Det handlar om fördelningen av frekvenser i musiken, där de högre är dämpade, som i regn eller vågor. Och det kallas ofta rosa brus.
As you get to lower frequencies, then the sound gets higher. It's noisier at low frequencies.
Och Clark fortsätter trots sina 83 år att publicera flera vetenskapliga studier per år. Numer främst om mörk energi.
Well, so far I've published 499 papers, and I tried to get to 500.
Så vad är det som årets fysikpristagare drömmer om att det frö de satte ska leda till? Vad hoppas de att framtidens kvantdatorer ska lösa?
When I get up, I look at the weather forecast, and sometimes it's right, and sometimes it isn't. So I think that's one of the things that's very, very complicated, that you could actually use this machine to work out.
The quantum computer is the ultimate simulator of chemistry. If you can find new drugs, that's wonderful. New fertilizer, that would be also very useful.
If you can find alternative materials that are much cleaner or more common, then the technology will be available cheaper and to more people.
One of the hope of quantum computation is to solve problems associated with nuclear fusion. This would have enormous impact